The Call of Duty franchise has been one of the most divisive in gaming. Ever since Call of Duty 4 came out in 2007, became popular, and helped kickstart the franchise into the mainstream and helping it become a yearly game, it's become about as mainstream as sports games, Grand Theft Auto, Eminem, and Beats headphones. While nearly every aspect of the series has been criticized, either from those who rarely play the games or only play them at a friend's house and then call them samey, or those heavily obsessed with the games down to floating apples and textures in a restroom, it has still managed to sell tons of copies. After all, the Call of Duty series has to be doing something right. Now, the last Call of Duty that came out, Advanced Warfare, I really liked. It felt like it brought something fresh to the series with its fast-paced gameplay, and it managed to take some of the best features from Ghosts and Black Ops 2, along with adding some of its own, such as the movement system, customizable score streaks, and supply drops. It ended up being a fun game, and I'd still go back to playing it online any day. It also managed to kickstart the Call of Duty series into next generation, and it truly felt like a next-gen game, unlike Ghosts, which felt like a stopgap game. Despite this, however, as usual with every new Call of Duty, some vocal sections of the player base did not enjoy it, with its movement system being a major criticism among them. Black Ops 2 was also a really good game, however the game had some major flaws, much of which had to do with the player base voting Nuketown over and over again, and less with the game itself. Some of the kill streaks were also overpowered, and as usual with nearly any big shooter nowadays, there was at least one overpowered gun. Despite these flaws, the game still remains popular, and is the #1 most requested Xbox One backwards compatible game. Ghosts, on the other hand, was mostly a train wreck. It not only had plenty of removed features such as no ping counters, care packages, or UAVs, but it also suffered from the same modern Infinity Ward quick death gameplay. It did, however, have some good features, such as the grenade cooking indicator, a much smaller scoreboard in the corner which could be toggled on and off, and a revised domination capturing mechanic that felt more like Battlefield's. Thankfully, the domination improvements made it into Advanced Warfare, but the real problem with Ghosts was the fact that it ignored improvements to the series that were made in Black Ops 2. Now, why did I bring these games up? Well, I thought that I'd like to show you how I felt about the last few Call of Duty games before I started to talk about Black Ops 3. Now, I did pre-order the game, but after playing the beta, which I talked about in another video, I canceled my pre-order. And now the final game's out, I've rented it from Family Video, and let's see if they fixed what was wrong with the beta. Now, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 on the main platforms features 3 modes: Campaign, Multiplayer, and Zombies. Now, odds are you likely don't even care about the campaign, and in fact the last generation version ships with only Multiplayer and Zombies. In fact, it even says it on the packaging, and it's being sold as a last generation Multiplayer only version. And it's only $50 as well, unlike the next generation version. However, instead of getting the single player, you get a download key for the original Black Ops from 2010, complete with everything in that game. I'm not going to focus on the Zombies mode in this video either, simply because to properly play that mode, you need friends who own the game too. And it also didn't help that when I tried matchmaking for Zombies, it simply didn't work. Now let's get to the reason people are buying the game, which is the multiplayer. Now when you first start the multiplayer, you see the new hip and trendy feature that this game is offering, and that is the specialist abilities. Now you get to pick from a preset character model and choose a character with an ability. Now there are several abilities in this game you can choose from, with some feeling more like score streak weapons from older Treyarch titles than, abilities I guess. The game features yet another new movement system. Unlike Advanced Warfare's exosuits, Black Ops 3 features a slower jetpack that feels like a slower and yes useful version of Halo Reach's jetpack. This means that the game plays a lot slower than the faster paced Advanced Warfare or even Black Ops 2. Now the game feels like it was mostly developed in a bubble, with Treyarch being the only developer, and many of the new features from Advanced Warfare are missing. Capture points work mostly the same way as they do in Black Ops 2, for example. However, instead of the rounds running on a timer like they did in that game or Advanced Warfare, the round instantly ends when the score for one team reaches 100 points. You can also no longer customize your score streaks, you have to use what the game hands you. You can also no longer go into an armory in the Create a Class menu to test out your weapons. Due to the new slower gameplay, Uplink, which was one of my favorite modes from Advanced Warfare, feels slow and clunky. In fact, nearly every mode does in this game. It doesn't help when the maps are some of the worst I've seen in the entire Call of Duty series. Every map feels like a bunch of buildings and camp spots in a tiny area, with some maps feeling like straight lines even, and I've been spawn killed plenty of times in this game too. Camping is a massive problem in Black Ops 3, and I've been in quite a few lobbies with people camping, and it's made worse by the spawn system spawning me in an area that feels like the same area over and over again, something the beta did as well. Similar to the recent Infinity Ward games, you die extremely quickly. You'll find yourself dying from everything from overpowered kill streaks to near-instant death from guns. Unlocked tokens also make a return, while supply drops are now unlocked with in-game currency instead of being handed out like they were in Advanced Warfare. Who wants to guess that later on down the line there will be a patch that adds microtransactions to the game? They also, from what I can tell, don't give out weapon variants anymore, unlike Advanced Warfare. Melee attacks have been neutered to the point where they are useless. Instead, you'll have to shoot an enemy at point blank instead of meleeing them as in previous games. I wonder if this was done to please people screaming on their microphone while making gaming commentaries. Take the knife out of the game, Treyarch! The sound design of this game is poor as well, and many explosions in the game sound very similar to the hitmarker sound and just as loud. In the previous games, the hitmarker was very distinct and had a very distinct sound and sound level. The graphics aren't anything impressive, and in some cases this game, despite running on an Xbox One, feels like the Wii U version of Black Ops 2 in the sense that it didn't feel like it was quite running at 60 frames a second. In fact, the graphics in general looked around the level of Black Ops 2 at best. To me, they seemed like a step backwards from Advanced Warfare even on the same system, and I've even seen better looking maps in Ghosts of all games. I mean, sure, this is a Call of Duty game, most likely running on the IW engine for the millionth time. In fact, the game even had the disclaimer on the packaging that it used ID software technology, but the game has no excuse when even Advanced Warfare on the same exact system looked better. And of course, just like Ghosts, the game seemed to have issues with the lighting and color design of the levels, and I noticed myself trying to look around for enemies, not noticing them, and then only noticing them when they were camping and shooting at me because they blended into the environment. Thankfully, however, there is one thing I can praise this game for, and that is this game does have some basic features that other AAA titles released this year or last year have lacked. Ping counters, voice chat, and map voting are all in this game, and the game even has an optional ping graph which you can toggle in the start button menu. However, you cannot make this graph show up during gameplay like you can with certain PC games. The game also contains split screen modes and LAN play, something that other companies such as Nintendo or 343 Industries have omitted in games released this year despite having reputations for split screen. All in all though, this is possibly the worst Call of Duty game in a while, and it's also a major letdown for anyone who was hoping this game was going to be good due to the fact that it was being developed by Treyarch. And the worst part about this game, however, was that it just wasn't fun. Even when I was racking up kills, I wasn't feeling like I was having much fun with this game whatsoever, and that's the biggest problem with this game. Other Call of Duties are more fun, and I see no reason to go back to Black Ops 3. In the end, however, I feel that the biggest problem with Call of Duty is that it's pretty much become the Need for Speed of shooters. With 3 different developers, yearly releases, and developers trying out new stuff each and every game while living in a bubble many times, you're starting to see the franchise fall apart. Ghost lacked many new features from Black Ops 2, and the same applies with Black Ops 3 lacking many Advanced Warfare features. The gameplay styles are also so different to the point where it's driving a wedge in the player base. Some players want Treyarch gameplay, some want Infinity Ward, and some now want Sledgehammer because they're a Call of Duty developer now too. And at the same time, there are so many Call of Duty games out at this point that you might as well run out to your local GameStop's used section instead and grab an older one off the shelf because you'll likely have more fun with that. And in fact, I guarantee if Activision went ahead and instead of putting out a Call of Duty every year, put out one Call of Duty with the best features from the last few Call of Duties that we got, the series would be more liked. There would be less of a fatigue every time a new Call of Duty came out, and maybe the game would be more polished too with fewer flaws. And to make matters worse, some platforms are being shafted. The last gen versions are a complete and utter joke graphically, despite the gameplay being mostly intact, have some features cut out, have no guarantee the DLC will ever come, they lack theater mode, and they suffer from frame rate issues. The PC version is even worse, as it flat out does not work for many people, and it's been flooded with negative Steam reviews from gamers who are having performance issues despite Black Ops 2 having a very good PC version. And these aren't gamers with low-end Acer netbooks posting negative reviews. These are people with 4th or 5th gen i5s, i7s, 16 to 32 gigs of RAM, R9 290s, 380s, 390s, GTX 980s, 970s, 770s, and similar. And if you have a PC, I'd avoid this game at all costs. And I think that's all that needs to be said about this game and the series itself. Please do not buy this game on the PC, and you might as well avoid this game on consoles too, because it's just not that great. That's all that needs to be said. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.